People who got divorced after 20 plus years together, what was the reason? Parents divorced after 22 years when my mother cheated. Dad felt bad and hurt but acknowledged he might have been part of the problem, emotional distance, so he wanted to work through it with therapy and stuff. She agreed to work through it, and then cheated again a week later. The divorce was messy. We were very independent, separate from the beginning. Very different views on raising kids, roles of mother versus father, money, etc. When we had children, it was my job as the mother to raise them, do all things domestic, and work full-time outside of the house. While they were in elementary school, he started cheating, which continued until I discovered it many years later. I left him after 26 years of marriage. I see so many people like this. Guys who want nothing to do with raising their kids, but their wives still have jobs as well. Not sure of who would marry someone like that. Well, I know of a couple of cases where the husband never wanted children but the wife gave an ultimatum so they had them. On condition they were her problem. Not the best choice in the long run. Not me, but my roommate. His wife left him after about 20 years. When he moved in he said he couldn't figure out why. After living with him for 6 months I've asked him to move out, and I can give him a reason for people not wanting to be around him. He's a closet alcoholic, he hides the bottles in the bottom of the recycling bin. He's insanely fucking lazy. He doesn't clean anything. He was unemployed for 3 years while married yet never learned basic skills like cooking or cleaning. He was working 30 hours a week when he moved and then asked for reduced hours because he couldn't handle it. Now he's at 15 hours and says he's looking for another job because he can't make ends meet. He stalks his daughters who don't want to see him. The scary thing is he doesn't think it's stalking because they're his daughters. Nope, even people call you and request you to stop parking outside their homes and watching them because you're not welcome. That's fucking stalking. Oh, and he sleeps more than my cat, but I see that as his best feature. Yep, his wife had good reasons. She put up with that for 20 years. Wow. My girlfriend got divorced after 20 years. About 10 years and he started to drink more and then more as time went on. She picked up the slack he left and tried everything to turn it around. 7 years she worked on it because my husband is my best friend and you don't abandon your best friend when they are in trouble. She tried all she could and he drank more and more. He became a shell of a mean man and she left when the youngest could drive. She is still sad. He died 120 days after the divorce was final. Now she feels the guilt. My parents were married close to 40 years and divorced. Dad is definitely on the spectrum and just doesn't understand normal emotions. He kept up pretenses when we were younger, but just stopped giving a shit later in life. Without children in the house to buffer their interactions, my dad's behavior became increasingly bizarre and inappropriate, and my mom's physical and emotional health started deteriorating, so we encouraged them to go their separate ways. Easier said than done. They're both products of the 50s, meaning my mom felt obligated to stick around and dad felt he should be allowed to do whatever he wanted, particularly because he made more money. That he then spent on himself. It was a clusterfuck, but I'm happy to say they are now divorced and living their own separate but fulfilling lives. Mom is devoted to caring for her grandbabies, and dad to his trophy wife. My parents were married for 25 years. She wanted to divorce him after the first year, but her parents, friends, and religious leaders all advised against it. My dad was a psycho. Their first married meal together my mom slaved over. She was super proud of it. They sat across the table, and my dad threw a glass of ice water at her face, and started laughing. He demanded sex whenever he wanted it. He worked constantly and never talked to us kids. Missed every recital, most football games. He picked on my little brother constantly, to the point where he would hide when he came home. They fought constantly about how he couldn't communicate, and was checked out. When I moved away at 19, I told him he'd never been there for me, and it was too late to have a relationship. He said he could have raped me, but he never did, so he must not have been a horrible dad. What the fuck? Glad you three are away from him now. Yeah, me and my 4 other siblings. The guy is sick. You gotta wonder what goes on inside the head of someone whose high achievement is not raping someone. A friend's parents got divorced when she was in high school. They'd been together nearly 20 years, but they argued constantly. After they got divorced, her dad bought the other half of the duplex they lived in and became best friends with her mom. They went out to dinner several nights a week, never fought over what to do with the kids, helped each other with bills. They just dated other people too. My friend said she wished they would have done that years ago. My aunt and uncle were best friends their whole lives. They got married, raised 3 girls, and when the youngest was 18, my aunt confessed she wanted a divorce. They live across town from each other and see each other all the time. My dad swears they are as good friends now as they were before they got married. Sometimes it just works out that way. His lying, cheating, and generally being an all-round twat. I brought the children up, worked 4 jobs which enabled me to never miss a school event. When the children finally left home, I knew I had earned my freedom. If you asked him what was wrong, he replied that I kicked him out for no reason. But frankly, I should have done it when the children were tiny. The result would not have been different. I was the one who brought them up, helped with school events, and was there for them whatever. He was off screwing anything he could stick his dick in. The really shitty thing was he gave me an STD and did not tell me. Not a nice man as it happens. Married 16 years, together 18. Had a solid relationship that was incredible. Job changes, family dramas, sister tried to kill herself, and it was like we were a team that could take on what life handed out. But then we had the year to end all years, lost 3 out of 4 parents. Her dad had died a long time ago, in a single year, moved to a new house that was still being renovated, and she went back to school to start a new career. All of those combined were like a perfect storm, and everything just collapsed. I still don't understand what happened. I think I have seen similar situations. Extremely stressful periods coupled with a different environment where there is new people and new experiences. It's a new life, where all the drama is gone. Meanwhile, when she returned to you, she was returning to the boring, stressful life, the one that reminded her of all of life hardships. I'm so sorry for you. I have a friend who lost her mother when she was a teen, and she said she turned away from 3 friends who were there for her and helpful during her mom's illness. She said it was like she couldn't stand being reminded of that time and those feelings, and she had to get away. Her friends were devastated and resentful. That is the closest thing I can come up with on how this can happen. My parents were together for almost 30 years, and then my mother and I found out my father had married another woman. My parents aren't legally divorced because of Sharia law complications, but needless to say, we haven't seen him since. Would have celebrated our 25th 6 months after the divorce was final. He was bunking his 20 years younger administrative assistant, Red Secretary. Said, "I want a divorce," when I confronted him. I said, "See ya, bye." Found out he was bunking various other persons prior to that. He married her. I married an awesome guy I met after. It's all good except for our daughters who are caught in the middle and the loss of a family. Oh, and in retrospect, my vague sense that he was an a-hole for those 25 years was actually spot on. Not 20 years, but very close. My ex completely took me for granted, was dependent on me for everything, never met my needs in any way. The last 10 years I was just trying to get through it for our children's sake, but eventually I couldn't keep up the charade anymore. We're still friends and spend time together for the sake of our children. Wasn't me, but happened in my family. They were married for 22 years. The wife was cheating on him for a few years, with her best friend, who was also a woman. The husband and wife agreed to split amicably, and the rest of the family were all really supportive, including the kids. As hard as it is to find out your partner has been cheating on you, I guess it's also hard to come to terms with who you are and your sexuality. Very difficult situation to be in. Years later, they're both in happy, healthy relationships and are still on good terms. The woman is still with her friend as well. After 27 years. But I won't focus on the last 5, because those are symptoms, not causes. We never should have married in the first place. We had a huge argument about a month before our wedding that would have split us up had we not been engaged, with invitations sent and venue booked. I buckled and went back on my knees to avoid the mess of undoing all that. What was the fight about? Was the underlying issue for that fight the same reason you divorced 27 years later? I said something that ticked her off at a very crowded, public event. She put her nose in the air and stormed off in a snit, and we lost each other for the entire day. Pre-cell phone. Her father ended up coming to get her from 50 miles away, but she left with my car keys in her purse. We were both in a rage by the end of the day, and if she was just a girlfriend, I would have been done. She said we were done, but I turned her around. My parents, mostly my mom, used to yell and fight a lot. It actually got pretty bad, and my mom decided to get a divorce after 20 years of marriage and 3 children. My dad was devastated. He's a hard-working man and has trouble expressing his love and care for his own family. We're Chinese. His way of showing it was by working like a dog to provide for us. My mom is also a hard-working woman, but she was always upset that he would rather be working than spend time with us, i.e. go on vacations and basically just spend time together as a family. I see where both of them were coming from. Anywho, they were separated and divorced for 4 years. My mom is a stubborn woman. The day she filed for divorce was the first time I have ever seen my dad cry. She basically ignored him when he came over to visit. He basically gave her all the money he made to provide for her and us 3 kids, no coercion and anything, he just wanted to provide for his children. Fast forward 4 years to the year of my graduation from university. I only had 2 tickets, so I invite my parents, of course. I wasn't sure how well they would get along, and I frankly thought they would be bored. Heck, I originally wasn't even going to attend, which is why I could only get 2 tickets short notice. They actually got along and took a lot of pictures together, even ditched me and went to Chinatown after the ceremony. I come home later that night, and my dad has his arm around my mom's shoulder. Very weird for me because I have never seen that in my life, and I was almost 22 at the time. He tells us, in Cantonese, "Your mom has decided to be my woman again." Both me and my brothers were floored. I thought it would have never happened in a million years. I'm kind of glad the divorce happened though. They get along a lot better now and actually go out on dates, which is weird but cute. I'm glad it worked out in the end. It's been 8 years after that day and they are still together. They communicate better and understand the other person more now. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.